Welcome to Going Beyond, and thank you so much for joining us today. Lots of us are interested in the arts and crafts, and it's a very relaxing, wonderful thing to be doing. I know I do a little bit. And here in my studio today, I have Amritha Venketakrishnan. Now, she owns this wonderful store in the city called Hindustan Trading Company. She's here in the studio to talk to me about the whole arts and crafts movement and what it is that makes her so successful, and the store a definite landmark in our city. So Amritha, thank you so much for coming here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here.
Thank
you.
I
have a small story to tell you, if you will.
Yes, I do.
So when I was probably in the 8th grade, I was interviewed for a story on rising milk prices by the NDTV. So at that point, I got obsessed with watching the channel. And that's when I saw you on NDTV.
Thank
so
you.
You were a big inspiration to me, because seeing women in that role is, I think back in the day, it still was rare.
Yes.
So seeing you was really an inspiration, and which is why I studied journalism.
Really?
When I grew up. So you are a hero of mine. So it's really very, very kind of amazing that I'm sitting across from you right now. So I studied journalism, and now I'm doing completely
the other way.
Yeah, the other way.
Opposite direction.
Opposite direction.
Right.
But that is life.
Right.
So yes.
Now, the store itself was started by your grandfather?
Yes.
Over 70 years ago?
Yes. So in 1948, just right after the independence movement happened, he opened up a store in Sowcarpet, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃 Street. It's still standing today.
Really?
Yes. So in fact, if you go in there, it'll be like you've gone into a time machine and come out on the other side.
Really? I must go there. I didn't know that there was another store.
Yes.
Okay.
So we used to do a lot of wholesale there. So we sold things like feeding bottles, cashews, ribbons, whatever was, we could sell at that point. Right. And that's how it started. And slowly we moved on to, doing stationery. I think that was in the 60s. And then Camlin comes into the picture, and then we get into art supplies. So it was a very different time, but it's been a pleasure to kind of know this history as well, because it gives me a little bit of push to go to the next level and take all of this.
So did your grandfather and were your parents also involved, I presume, right?
Yes. So my dad, I think he's worked ever since he was a teenager. Mm-hmm. He was somebody who didn't, really like traditional education. So he said, I would rather go into business. So if you knew him, you would think he is probably the most educated person, because he could very fluently speak English, which he learned from reading The Hindu.
Really?
And he could speak Malayalam, Tamil. So basically he was he knew multiple languages, even though he was not, traditionally trained for any of that. Right. So he excelled at things that were not technically taught in school. And he loved business, really.
Right. It's obviously done very, very well over the years. So when did you take over the whole thing, and when did you keep this flag flying?
So I think when I was 22, so probably 15 plus years ago. I was really green when I started. I had a very lofty vision of I'll have 30 stores all India by the time I'm 30. That was my goal. But then it humbled me very quickly. And I realized, doing one thing properly actually takes a lot of effort. Which is why I focused wholly on the business and try to do different things to ensure that, it's as successful as it is today.
Right. So over the years, have you found that there's been a growing interest in the arts and crafts in our city? Let's talk about Chennai.
Yeah. Chennai, I think, always has been inclined to the arts in general. This is something that has continued throughout, whether it's through my dad's time when they had the Madras art movement, or now where it's not just the mainstream art that is important, but also the other avenues like your Madhubani, your Kerala mural. All of these other art forms are also very important. Mm-hmm. And there's always these newer ones that come up, like calligraphy, which I think you love doing.
Absolutely.
So there are all of these mediums that have now been introduced, and people are, kind of gravitating towards.
Right.
So definitely there is a need for this in the city, I would say. And what we've done in terms of, taking it to the next level is to build a community around this. So in our store, we have a dedicated space where we do workshops. And every weekend it's different. Like this past weekend, we had Madhubani, we had calligraphy, so we had watercolor. So it's basically introducing the medium to people. And we make it all super beginner friendly so that they're not intimidated by saying, this looks so complicated. So we tell them, don't worry. You will be able to do this at the end of the class. So that is a promise we give them. And they get so much confidence from that. So I think creating the interest in art, or like kind of getting them to do this, is something that we've started doing, from the early age. My dad was doing it, but now I've taken that up very seriously.
Right. Do you do stuff for children?
Yeah, of course. So in fact, next
weekend.
Is that
popular?
Yes. So, in fact, you'd be surprised to know it's not just art. So, next weekend, we have carpentry for kids.
How
where
wonderful.
They will learn how to build something from scratch, meaning they will use screwdrivers, power tools, everything. Supervised, of course.
Right.
But it's not just art. Like, there is so much more to it. So, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a space where it's a safe space for people to come and explore without judgment, without pressure, where they just relax. It's more about just being present in the movement.
Right.
So,
well, I've been into your store, into the new store, only once so far, I must confess. But it's so amazingly stocked. How do you decide what you're going to order, what you're going to put on those shelves? Will this sell? Won't this sell?
So that's a tricky question, because sometimes even we don't know. We try to experiment. But we want to give the variety and the choice to the customer. Let the customer decide. So our job is to fill everything up, to give them all the choices, whether it's, in any budget and any brand that they want. Because we want the store to be at an international level where they come in and be like, wow, okay, there is everything here. We don't need to travel anywhere to get something.
Now, of all these many, many different things that you have, the craft supplies, the art supplies, is there any one particular thing that sells the most? I mean, would you say, what would you think is the most popular art or craft that you actually have in your shop?
I think painting, is like a universal one where, they either paint with acrylics or oils or watercolors. Painting remains the most popular medium as such. And I think, I don't think it's going away anywhere, because I think even the craft, like for now, if you ask me what's in trend, crochet seems to be like the lady of the hour.
Yes,
and
yes.
And at one point, like probably 5-6 years ago, it was quilling. So it's always like different things. They kind of like, it's like a 90s trend. It just goes and comes right back. So, that it keeps happening. So it's nice to see people kind of pick up all of these hobbies, and things like, adult coloring books. They were all the rage at one point.
I like those. Those are very interesting, aren't they?
Very, very
relaxing. Very relaxing and peaceful.
Yeah.
There's something
so,
that...
I think it is to see the trend before it happens, or it happens to us at least.
Yeah.
Because I think the West kind of... is very differently built that way. Like they kind of figure something out first, and then it takes us a couple of months to catch up.
Right.
But that normally happens. So that is something that we do. We see that and we feel like, yeah, okay, I think it'll work in India. We try to be ready before the trend hits.
So
that the stock is available with us when the customers want it.
So tell me, are arts and crafts only the prerogative of women, or do you find that men dabble as well?
The percentages is skewed in favor of women, I would say, because I mean, like even in our workshops, it's mostly 90% women, but there are the odd men who come in. I don't know why this is so, like, gender normative.
It's not considered a macho thing, is it?
I don't think so, because I have seen, like, in some workshops, like pottery or any of these other workshops, which is slightly more gender neutral, I do see men participating and really excelling. I think it is it is sad, really. They should realize that they are two creative people as well.
Right.
Because like even in the pottery workshop when we have it, I see that there is a sense of play and a sense of like, going back to being a kid again. I think that is something adults miss ever so often.
Right.
So it's nice. Like every time I do a workshop, I learn something different. I see something different. It gives me a lot of perspective on what to do next.
You yourself, do you do any art? Do you do any craft at all?
Sometimes I paint. It's very rare.
Really?
Whenever I get the chance. Since I have all these samples and
you try them out?
Yeah, I try them out. So that's my one vice, you could say.
When you look back, do you think this is a good direction for a young woman like yourself?
I think when you're younger, you fearless, like you just jump in. I think I came in at the right time. I was working for a paper called The Mint. It was a business newspaper. So I was a cub reporter for them for over a year. I was
so that's the journalism part of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was on a path to, promotions and all of that stuff. Like I could see it unfold. But I think after my father fell ill, it was important that somebody picked up the baton. And it fell to me. Even though I have two sisters, it was me that kind of was given the responsibility of running the store.
Well, I know that you lost your father not that long ago.
Yes.
I offer you my condolences on that. But from heaven, he's looking at you and he's probably very proud of what you are doing. What about your sisters, Amritha? Are they involved at all?
One sister lives in Australia, so she's not here. But my elder sister does come help out at the store now. Because I think even when she was younger, so when we were kids, it was very normal to go help your dad out in a store.
Oh, really? You started? How old were you then?
I think probably 8 or 9 years old. So I would spend all my summers in the store, and it's not like how it is now, right? Like there's no computers, there's nothing. There's only like code numbers for all of these colors. So the artist comes down and they note down all these code numbers and they'll give it to you. And you got to go into the godown or the attic
and find it for them.
Fetch them and fetch this. So I was fascinated by these numbers and wanting to go fetch them. And sometimes he'd allow me to sit in the cash counter and count cash, like give them change. Endlessly fascinating for a kid. So,
I would say.
So I think that's where I think I had an interest for business in general, and which is why I gravitated towards this as well.
Do you see yourself expanding in the future?
Yes.
I mean, is there a way? Is there an opportunity to expand in a business like yours?
Yes. So we are looking at least 2 more stores in Chennai.
Oh.
So we're already on path to do 1 more. We're just in the stages of finalizing the space and all of that. So yes, I think now it is the time for growth because we have kind of maximized what we can do inside this store. So now the idea is to take it to other places in the city and then go from there.
Do you think there's scope for that then, obviously?
For sure. Because I think the city is expanded to a point where now ECR used to be considered the outskirts.
Right.
Now it's very much part of the city.
Indeed.
So I think as the city evolves, we should also evolve.
What about costs of these art supplies? What do you think? Do you think that that's a very important factor for you as a business person?
Yeah, I think so, because we want to be able to keep it affordable for people, which is why we keep everything from a lower budget to a higher budget at our store.
I've noticed that, yes.
You would get like a 𝗏𝗏 eraser if you wanted.
Yes.
And you would get
a factus or
something that's like, a couple of thousands of rupees. Or you could get a brush that's 20 rupees and a brush that's 20,000 rupees at the same store. So our idea is to not discriminate based on the value of the product, but rather the value it provides to the customer.
Right.
So that our customer first approach has never changed, which is, I think, the reason why people come back to us. Because we're not going to be pushing something on you because it's expensive because we want to make money.
Right.
That's never the case. Like if a beginner came to me, I'd say, it's okay for you to prioritize this. You can spend a little bit more money on something like a paper, for example, which is important. Let's say if you're doing watercolor, paper is the most important because it can break or make your confidence in terms of that medium as such. So I'll tell them spend a little bit more on getting good paper. You can compromise and like get beginner quality brushes and paint, which is fine. So once you get confidence, you can always upgrade. So we never try to push super expensive things on people. That's not our goal. But we have everything. So it's your choice.
In fact, Amritha, I have noticed only in the one time that I've been there that your sales staff are extremely good. They're very reticent. They stand back until you actually call for help, you know, which I think is a very nice thing because you can browse, I think, in your store for as long as you want, Yes. How old is this particular store of yours, the 𝗏𝗏 one, the new one?
When we moved, so the expanded version happened during COVID in 2020.
Really?
It was a huge risk.
Of course.
To move from like probably 1,000 square foot store that we had on the first floor to this massive building, right?
How big is this present store? 6,000?
6,000 square feet.
That's huge. That is huge, yes,
yes. So we have like an extensive collection of canvases, of paints, colors. Basically, we wanted to be an artist paradise, and that is what we've tried to do.
And do the artists actually come streaming in there?
Of course.
Really?
we recently had our, so we do this anniversary sale where one day we just say, okay, the entire store is on sale, go nuts. So we had, I think, about 400 to 500 people show up on that one day.
Wow.
Which was like very,
amazing.
Honestly, I didn't expect it. We were besieged with people.
But delighted.
I know, delighted, because I think more than anything, I was very happy to see that, people respond to, something that's genuine, that because it's our birthday and we want to celebrate with you. And which is why we do it.
When is that?
25th of October.
October. Okay,
Yep.
So you've just finished it then?
Yes.
Right, okay. Was it a very good response? I mean, 400 or 500
Yeah,
people.
it's probably
Does
the
it
highest,
translate into sales?
Yeah, so it was the highest one-day sale we've ever done. Ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty amazing, honestly.
Right. Now, in the other stores that you're planning, the future stores that you want to set up, are you going to have the same vastness of a store, or are you going to start small? What's your plan?
So honestly, if you ask me, if given a choice, I would again do like a 4,000 square foot store, because I think experience centers are the way to go, in the sense when people come to you, they're looking for an experience. They want to be odd. And it's difficult to do that when you have less space. But now with the current economic situation, how expensive real estate really is, it would depend really on that, I think. So even if we go for a slightly smaller space, what we will do is we will offer the variety, but probably a curated variety.
Right.
But I don't think that would change. Like the core of our
business
will not change.
Right. You said that the Sowcarpet store is still there.
Yes.
People still go there?
So that's mostly a wholesale hub. So let's say you wanna buy something bulk for a school, or for like smaller stores want to buy bulk supplies. So Sowcarpet is known for that, right? Like, so we only do B2B over there.
Right.
So it's mostly, it continues to be that.
Do you find that schools these days, you said schools, do you think that schools are actually encouraging their students and their kids in their school to do little things with their hands?
Yes. So recently we imported something called gel printing plates from the US. It's a very, very popular medium. It's pretty much like part of every art curriculum in the US.
Really?
Yes. So we were very keen to get that to India. Initially, we found acceptance very tough, because they're like, it's too expensive. We don't want to experiment.
Spend that kind of money.
So what I did was, then I took a call. I called up all of the artists who are teachers at your international schools.
Yes.
And I said, I'm going to send each of you a plate, and you experiment and you feel happy, you buy it for the school. So they all tried it out. They were happy and they all ordered. So then what happens is the kids get to try it out. They're more interested in art.
Yes.
It was like a mixed media plate. So you can do anything. You can put acrylics on there, watercolors on there, and pull prints, do image transfers. It's like a whole world altogether, printmaking as such.
Right.
Right. So this was something that needed to be introduced and encouraged for people to pick up. So we are trying to do that. We are trying to introduce things that are not so popular and make them popular.
Right. Do you ever actually, apart from this, because you've got a new product, but do you ever actually go into schools and encourage the principals and school authorities to actually be encouraging their kids in turn to take up different things like this?
I wish it was such an open door policy.
Really?
Because then it would be easier to approach them. But what we try to do is, I think it's easier to get the message across through the art teachers, because they are the last mile anyway.
Oh, right. Yeah,
and unless they are convinced,
they're not going to
kind of pass that on. So we try to kind of give them access to whatever new supplies come. So it's not from a perspective of wanting to make money.
No.
It's honestly from a perspective of let them know what's there. They don't need to order it. But
they don't need to buy.
They don't need to buy it.
Yes.
But if they know it's there, they can tell a student, let's say they're working on their portfolio. They can tell them, hey, this is available. If you'd like to put this up in your portfolio, you should go ahead and buy it.
Right. Would you think in the future you might go into different areas relating to arts and crafts?
Yes.
Are there other plans for you to do that?
So, honestly, my husband's been after me to do my own product. So that
is what?
Anything. It could be a kit, or it could be, like an idea. It could be anything. So I am seriously pursuing that, because I think there is a lot of gaps in certain areas in terms of even if you take the DIY kits.
Yes.
It's all very geared towards like one sort of audience. Like it's either very kiddish or it's very, plain vanilla. Like, for example, if you did lino printing, which is very, very, very creative, very amazing kind of a medium that is, kind of can be addictive. So, there's no kit to address this kind of requirement of like slightly more professional, do-it-yourself mediums. So I think that is definitely a gap that can be addressed. Whether it's $1 million business, I don't know. But definitely, I think there is scope to kind of address this and like have separate kits for more professional topics.
You've just mentioned printing twice, Amritha. So I'm just wondering, is that the new way to go forward, or
Yeah,
what?
I think so, because
printing what? When you say printing, what do you mean?
So lino printing, for example, is kind of like making your own stamp. So you carve it from scratch.
Okay.
So let's say you draw the design, you trace the design, you can do whatever you like. So let's say Van Gogh's Starry Night. You can actually, the pointillism that he has in his work and all of that, you can just carve it out with these tools that they give you. So then when you ink it and take a print, it looks very nice. It almost looks like a painting.
Right. I just bought overseas, of course, some rubber plate-like thing, and from which I can carve. Is that what you're meaning about? Is that called lino printing? I didn't know that was the name of it. Yes. Okay, and that's popular?
It's popular now.
Really?
It's actually part of every art curriculum, including the one in our government arts college. It's a part. Printmaking is a subject.
Right.
So, but now more than the mainstream, I think more hobbyists are kind of picking it up, because they're realizing, they'll make small Japanese cats, or like they'll just like make it out of their erasers, things like that. They're discovering
the eraser.
Yeah, so they're discovering the joy of doing that. And it's less pressure, because most people are like, I don't know how to draw, I don't know how to paint, what do I do? So this is like a very low pressure thing that they can do, actually. And then, again, like I said, it's very gender neutral. Anybody could do this. So
what about the government schools? Are they at all doing anything like this, I wonder?
I think for them, budget is definitely an issue. It would be amazing if they can experience all of this. In fact, I had sent my pottery teacher to one of the government schools and said, please do a session for them. So, and they were all so happy to just do something with their hands, and like there was so much joy. But I think definitely the lack of funds and budget is something that limits them from trying out new things.
Right. So perhaps the education department should be looking at stuff like this. Have you ever approached them as such, per se?
No, I haven't actually. Maybe I should. So this is good.
The art movement itself, paintings. I see a lot more stores these days that are selling paintings, and people who are doing this as a business. So do you have any plans for an art gallery anytime in the distant future, or something?
Yeah, definitely. I think we should make it a part of the store. We've done like one show, but I think it requires a little bit more nuance. We have a collection of artists and people who are our customers. So you need someone who are collectors, who would be willing to pay the price that these artists want to, be able to even make money off of it, right? So that's where the galleries, I think, are very attuned. They've kind of been doing this for a while. But yes, I think there is scope to have a gallery for people who are not necessarily qualified, but they're very good.
Yes.
Because, galleries don't tend to take people who are not traditionally trained.
I know, that's true.
So I think there is scope to open up the doors for people who are not necessarily classically trained, but insanely good.
Right. In the workshops that you're doing, we did talk about how gents don't come forward. But what about little boys? Are they sort of getting into the first stages of stuff like this?
Yeah.
Have you found that?
Yeah. So it's ever so often, like if we have like more generalized topics like oil pastels, things like that, I do find boys and girls, they're all there. That's not an issue. In fact, we had a drone workshop where it was like they made their own drones one day.
Wow,
so so there was obviously, but I was surprised. It was equally divided. There were equal amount of girl kids and boy kids at that workshop. So it was honestly heartening to see that, the kids these days, they're not really that. They're not saying this is for boys, that is for girls.
They're not gender specific.
I don't think so. So I think it's just their interest.
You have some lovely ideas as we're talking here today. The rest of the family, are they, I know some people are probably interested, but how do they accept this young woman sitting in front of me who's so successful. Please tell me, they must be so proud of you.
Yeah, I think my family has been my champion. I mean, whether it's my uncles and aunts or my sisters or even my husband for that matter, he is someone who keeps pushing me constantly to be better.
How lovely.
So I kind of lucked out there in terms of, yeah.
Very much so. I'm really delighted, you know. So it's just so nice to have you here. Do you see yourself doing this along the way?
I think so, because honestly, part of the reason I picked up, you know, this entire business itself is because of my dad. I think his influence even today is striking. Recently, we've been doing a documentary about him and basically his contribution to
the art world.
Really.
Indeed.
And how I'm following this is by doing interviews with people who've interacted with him, like 𝗷𝗲𝗍𝗃, who is the ex-principal of the Government College of Arts and also who was
the cat painter.
Yes, the cat painter. Yes, of course.
I have one of his paintings.
Oh, he is amazing.
Oh, yes, it's human. His cats are human.
Yes, of course. And then 𝗃𝗣𝗍𝗃 sir, for example.
Yeah, 𝗃𝗣𝗍𝗃.
Or, you know, Mark Ratnaraj and
𝗚𝗏𝗏
sir,
yes,
all of them.
Right.
So they talk about like unique anecdotes and experiences that they've had with my father. Like, for example, Mark said, when I was just a college kid, I had come from Kumbakonam to your store. And it was like I've entered a different world.
It is.
And it was a tiny store, mind you. It was a 300 square foot hole in the wall. Right? So he says, when I came into the store, I felt like, you know, your dad was like, where have you come from? What are you doing? And it was kind of like a half an hour conversation that he had with him. He says, I was just a kid. There was no reason for him to spend that
to waste his time with me.
But that's not how he saw it, right? Like, he wanted to know what he's doing, what he's interested in, all of that stuff. And then he said before he left, he wanted some pencil, but he didn't buy it. So my dad said, here, have one more. So he bought one pencil. My dad gave him another one and said, take it.
How wonderful.
And he says...
What a rare quality. That sort of thing is rare.
Absolutely. Very rare. And then he says he cried for 3 days because when he went to college, someone took it. And he says, I have never been able to get over it. So I think a few years later, I came back to the store and I told your dad about this incident. And he just laughed and said, wow, what's the big deal? You could have just asked me for one more and I would have given it to you.
How lovely.
So I think that kind of defines how my dad saw this business. It was his baby. He really cared for his customers. He cared for the people who worked for him. And I think that kind of translates and is the soul of the store still.
Right. That's wonderful because obviously you're carrying the flame forward in that respect. You know, you go there every day?
Yes, I do. I try to. And
you interact with your customers there?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So that
they're not intimidated by you?
I'd like to think I'm a little friendly.
I dare say you are. Yes, absolutely. Because I've seen you even at the pop-ups where you actually are in your stall. So you can, you know, especially people who are familiar with you and who know you will immediately say, oh, wow, she thinks it's important enough to be here.
No, so I do everything. I think that I learned from my dad again. Like if there is like a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be checked and let's say we're short-staffed, I would go where I'm needed.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily
stuck to one
thing. Like if I need to do billing because the billing is busy, I'm happy to do it. So I don't look at any job as not my job.
Well, Amritha, you deserve every bit of success.
Thank you so much.
You really, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's so nice of you to come in here.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to have been able to talk with you. Well, it's been my pleasure to have Amritha here with me. It's been such a wonderful conversation. And if there's anybody out there who's looking at arts and crafts, don't give it up because it's the most relaxing, wonderful thing to be doing. It's a sure stress buster. Take it from me. Well, it's been fun to have you back here with us on Going Beyond. And I do look forward to you seeing every single show because this is the program. Believe me, it's a program that brings you somebody who's interesting, somebody who's fascinating, and always, but always, it's definitely somebody who's inspiring. So until the next time we meet, you take care. Bye for now.